Get ready for a science video of Grammaticus Macedon. By some, it is considered to be the most brilliant idea the human mind has ever conceived. Natural selection is the most important mechanism of evolution of species. To understand it, we should compare it with something very familiar: artificial selection. The different races of dogs were created by humans from wolves. It was done by breeding with artificial selection. We humans artificially select animals having in tense the desired characteristics and breed them. It is breeding control by humans. Most animals and plants are sexually reproducing organisms. Some descendants deviate with more intense characteristics. To create a tall race of dogs, we select the tallest and we breed them. Most descendants resemble their parents. Some of them deviate to become taller and some shorter than their parents. The bell curve distribution is a typical biological distribution. As you see, 10% of new dogs are taller than their parents. We kill or castrate the shorter dogs. These tall dogs we spared are from the progeny, which means the first generation in Greek. Then we selectively breed these progeny tall dogs with each other. They produce descendants, the deuterogeny, which means second generation in Greek. Again, we spare the tallest dogs to breed and we kill or castrate the rest. We breed these tall dogs again and again and we end up with a tall race of dogs. Once we are satisfied with the height of the race, we stop. Natural selection is almost the same thing. What's the difference? The environment and nature select individuals with desired characteristics. Natural selection is a fundamental evolutionary mechanism. Nature always selects the fittest individuals for a given environment. This way, over time, the characteristics of species change, and we get individuals that better fit the environment. Two oversimplified examples now. Like humans, the wind can also do breeding control. Very tall wheat plants are broken by the wind in the mountains before reproducing. Wheat plants have thin stems, and the taller they are, the easier they break. The mountain is an inclined surface exposing tall wheat plants to the wind. Short neighboring wheat plants don't cover the tall ones enough to withstand the wind. Only short plants survive to reproduce. Thus, the wind creates a race of short wheat on the mountains, short enough to withstand high winds. Here we see the same graphics we saw with the dogs. The selection mechanism is the same. Instead of humans selecting, the wind does the job. Here is another example with breeding control by the sun. Like all plants, wheat plants need sun energy to photosynthesize and grow. Short wheat on the plains don't reach the sun because they are covered by the taller ones. Without sun energy, they die without reproducing. Thus, the sun creates a race of tall wheat on the plains. Height is just a characteristic, but the organisms have thousands of characteristics. Artificial selection is understood and practiced for thousands of years. This ancient Assyrian king does genetic engineering on plants based on artificial selection. Natural selection is misunderstood even by people in academia in 2022. This is because natural selection justifies evolution of species. Evolution challenges some religious beliefs, and although self-evident, some people don't accept it. I will make another video just for evolution itself. Modern scholars, YouTubers, and others stand in awe in front of Charles Darwin. Portraits and statues of Darwin are in biological institutions and museums around the world. These scholars admire Darwin for his noble idea about natural selection. Alfred Russel Wallace came up with the same idea independently and simultaneously. All the credit went to Darwin because his final work was promoted better. These 19th century English scholars had quality education and they knew ancient Greek. They were able to read the ancient Greek scientists straight from the original text. The Russian author Leon Nikolaevich Tolstoy once said, "There is no education without the Greek literature." Charles Darwin admittedly studied Aristotle, and it seems that he was a good student. After all, Aristotle is the father of biology, which we don't learn in modern education. Now, what if I tell you that neither Darwin nor Wallace discovered evolution and natural selection? It is well known that evolution appeared with Anaximander and Empedocles thousands of years ago. What no one talks about anymore is Aristotle's natural selection. Aristotle was the first to mention natural selection in his Physics. He did in his second book of physics, called Periphyseos, about nature. Physis in Greek is nature. And he does so in All Genius. He states that nature is the final cause. Thus, nature's driving force is necessity and not a special plan or design. He supports necessity with two examples. The rain doesn't fall by Zeus in order to help wheat grow. Instead, because humidity elevates to colder levels, condenses into water and falls like rain. It may rain and the wheat of someone gets lost in the threshing floor. That means it just happened to rain. The rain wasn't a special universal plan for him to lose the wheat, but it just happened to rain. Even though the farmer may think that the whole universe is working around him. In a very clever way, Aristotle sets the ground to reject religious and superstitious explanations. He prepares the ground for a strict rational thinking. He explains that teeth have special characteristics. The incisors to cut and the molars to grind the food. Teeth were not planned or designed to be as such, they just happen to be like that. The same holds for all characteristics that may seem purposefully designed. By saying this, he clearly rejects superstitious version of creationism and intelligence design. There are bigots who fight against science to promote this intelligence design hypothesis. And then he goes straight into natural selection and he says organisms with combination of useful characteristics survived because they were found in an appropriate composition. Those without this combination of characteristics got lost and they continue to be getting lost. In other words, he says that natural selection is a dynamic process and it keeps going. Aristotle says that it happens like Empedocles explains in his text with a man-faced ox progeny. Aristotle connects his natural selection to an evolution text of Empedocles. Empedocles stated that humans and other animals and plants are those combinations of elements, today we would call them nucleic bases, that retain the ability to survive and reproduce due to the fortuitous arrangement of their parts, the characteristics, I guess. For Aristotle, organisms with the appropriate characteristics survive. Those without them perish and continue to perish. Well, this is the evolutionary mechanism of natural selection. According to Aristotle, the final cause in nature is to form species. Natural selection, especially in environmental changes, changes species and creates new species. Cladogenesis and anagenesis create new species, which are new forms. But why doesn't Aristotle get the credit for natural selection? Is it because he wasn't promoted well like Wallace? And why wasn't he promoted well enough? Is it because Aristotle wasn't an Anglo-Saxon, a Jew or a Christian, a German at least? Is it because, contrary to Darwin, Wallace and Newton, modern science scholars don't speak Greek? Is it the anti-Greek spirit as explained by Friedrich Nietzsche in his book The Birth of Tragedy? It is for very deep reasons, and I will make another full video about this matter. For now, I'll just mention that lack of Greek makes modern scholars memorizing animals. The majority of scientific terms are Greek, and Greek language helps to deep understand these terms. This is why all mathematicians I met don't know what mathematics means etymologically. As Epictetus said, etymology is the basis of wisdom, the visit of names. Even scholars of classics nowadays teach Greek without speaking it, except a few that we can count on our fingers. I will provide a translation of a half-page long text in the video description. Both the ancient text and the translation will help you justify what I just mentioned. The ancient Greek language is very advanced and translation cannot be super fluid. Now, I will read 3 key sentences from the ancient text translated by me. I will go word by word and without changes to fit the English language. This way you cannot say that I cooked conclusions through the translation. Όπου μεν άπαντα συνέβη, ὥσπερ καν ή ἕνεκά του ἐγίγνετο. Where accordingly therefore everything happened just as even is because of becoming. Ταῦτα μεν ἐσώθη από το αὐτοµάτου συστάντα ἐπιτηδείως. Those have survived from the automatic presented suitably. Όσα δε μη ούτως, απολέτω και απόλυτε κάθαπερ. These though not in this manner perish and keep perishing exactly as. And please don't take me wrong. Darwin and Wallace promoted and established this idea of natural selection in very difficult times. They went very deep and they made this theory rigid. But we can't overlook Aristotle. This is my first science video in this science channel. I'll be happy to see people subscribing, likes, dislikes, and comments. In the description, you will find my social media links. Thanks for watching.